All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Quantum Alignment Show. I am excited to continue our conversation that we started last week about power and how to unlock your power. Today, we're going to be talking about the pathways of power in the chart and how you can best activate your essential core human / creative / divine power. So my intention today, we'll see if I actually pull this off, is to get through this presentation with time left over to hit some of your big questions. And feel free, start now, start posting your questions below if you're on Facebook, if you're in the Zoom webinar. If you go down below, there's a little chat button. You can post your questions in the chat, and I will do my best to try to get to some of your questions today so that we can begin, or at least continue, our conversation about activating your power. So give me just a second. I'm going to open up the slides, and Cindy is going to post for you guys the links for the note sheet for today. And we'll keep that going. I am curious, for Cindy, when this is showing up on the Facebook page, I just want to see, is just the image showing up, or does all the border stuff show up? Because I want to use the cursor, and I can't really use the cursor.
All the border stuff shows up, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's not pretty. All right, we'll work with it. All right, so I want to remind you, oops, I have to move this. I want to remind you that when we are talking about power, that this statement here is really what the chart shows us is the definition of your true power. And that power is, and I read this last week, but I'm going to read it again. And I want you to read it along with me, because there is certainly something powerful about language and what we see, of course, with the throat center, in particular, the throat center through the connection 1020, which is in the G center, the channel that one of the channels that connects the G center to the throat. Is the language that we use to define who we are. Not only sets the tone for the direction that we take with our life, it actually calibrates the magnetic resonance field of your heart and influence what you attract into your reality. That language carries a frequency of energy, and when we speak high frequency language, we create literally an energy template of identity for us to grow into or step into in a more powerful way. So let's read this together. I'll even make you put your hand over your heart. Okay, you ready? I am a perfect expression of the divine. I am a powerful, unlimited creator. I'm fully supported in the complete experience of my fulfillment of my life path and soul purpose. Being supported is my birthright and my natural state. It is through the path of surrender, compassion, and service to the cosmic plan, the divine path, and to divine timing, that I'm always in the right place at the right time with the right people, making the right choices to fulfill my destiny and the energy of Source God working through me to serve the world. I am always sufficiently provided for, and I am grateful. I use all that I am to fully activate all that I am. I fully express my mastery, my heart, my authentic self, my unique place of service, and my joy. I receive because I know I am a precious child of the divine. I receive because I know that surrender is the path to power and service, and I allow all the good that is my birthright. I create purely for the sake of expressing the source of love that I am. I trust. I use the blessings of my infinite abundance to increase the abundance of others. I am love and loved. I am infinite abundance in action. That's you. That's you guys. So hold on to that. When you start to question, okay, what is this power thing? Where am I headed? You know, we have a vocabulary issue when we talk about power. And part of the vocabulary issue that we have is, I think that the definition that we have of power stems from tribal energy. And when we look at the human design chart and we see where tribal energy is and where the power in the tribal circuitry is, we see that that kind of power is rooted first and foremost in ego, and ego is rooted in fear. And that when we come from fear and ego and we are using that kind of power, marry that with the energy of lack, thinking I don't have enough, then we move into power being a place of form, a place of force rather, an energy where we hold on to more than what we need, where we feel that others are coming to take away what we have, and we move deeply into a defensive stance as part of our power. Certainly there are times when that's necessary, when you need to set boundaries for yourself and even defend yourself. But that's not the usual way that we embrace power and create with power. Power comes from a completely different place. In fact, when we look at where the highest energy of power is in the chart, or empowerment is in the chart, we actually see that power is connected to the heart. So let's kind of explore some of those concepts today. We started last week talking about the resiliency key of empowerment. There are 9 core resiliency keys. These are 9 basic archetypes that need to be operating in the highest expression for you to be able to really fulfill your purpose. Cindy, did you have a question?
We're still on the mantra. Are we where the slides put? Is that where we're supposed to be?
Nope.
That's fine.
Nope, the thicky's not moving again. Okay. Let's see. Now, there.
Oh.
Are you seeing the empowerment slide?
I am seeing empowerment now.
Awesome. Okay, cool. All right, let's try this. So last week we started talking about, the 9 resiliency key. If I took all of the human design chart and I blended it up in a blender and I came out with the 9 key drivers that are in the chart that are important for people to feel safe and supported in fulfilling the full expression of who they are, those 9 core archetypes, the 9 resiliency keys, we would pull out of that blender the 9 resiliency keys. One of those resiliency keys is called empowerment. And what we see when we look at the overall picture of the chart is that for you to feel that you can express the truth of who you are, you have to feel powerful. And as I said last week, being powerful and knowing how to activate your power and how to be appropriately powerful is such a vital human need that we have 2 distinctly different childhood developmental cycles that we go through from birth to 18-ish that are about teaching us how to become appropriately powerful. So the question that we always play with when we are looking at how to activate your empowerment, the nature of that, expressing the highest element of that theme, is the question, are you activating the full potential of your power? Or I would even just lovingly and gently ask you to ask yourself, do you feel powerful in your life? Do you feel like you have at least influence, if not control, over how you respond to life and how you can create what you want in your life? Empowerment is, did this move, Cindy? Just checking, hold on. Did we slide to the next slide? Do we see the 4 motors here?
No. So we're probably going to have to go out of slide shape.
All right, well, everything almost works today. Woohoo! This will be a compromise. Let's see if we do it this way, if this will work. All right. Do you see all this, my dear?
Well, I'm seeing empowerment right now with the 4 motors, yes.
That's where we are. All right, let's see if this works. All right, let's try that. Maybe that'll make it look at least a little less messy. So when we talk about empowerment, we are primarily talking about these 4 motors. These are the 4 energy centers in the design chart that actually carry motorized energy. And if you want to learn more about the 4 motors, I talked about them a lot in last week's presentation. In this week's presentation, we're exploring the pathways of power in the chart, and we're going to be looking at the channels in a very loose overview, broad kind of a way, because if I actually went through every one of these channels, you guys would be here for the next couple of hours. And while I know that might be an exciting thing for a few of you who are first-line profiles who have the gate 48 defined in your chart and open heads and ajnas, Most of you are probably thinking, oh my God, woman, it's Friday. Get it done so we can go do something really fun and get a glass of wine. Okay. So we're going to do this in the get it done, have some fun kind of a way. And I certainly encourage you as I go through this, if you have specific questions about these channels, post them and we'll try to get to them at the end of the presentation. So when we look at the first motor, and I'm going in a little bit different order than I went in last week, we're looking at the root center, which is technically of the four motors, the least powerful motor. The root center is so, so, so important though, and this is why. You look at that root center energy, first of all, notice how far away from the throat center it is. The throat center is right here at this break between where we have all the stuff, well, it's just right here. I won't try to describe it. It's right there. The throat center is kind of the gearbox in the human design chart, and it's that place in that really, whatever makes it to the throat tells us a lot about how you sense and feel who you are. So if you have anything connected to your throat, that's usually what you identify with the most in your chart. Your throat center tells us about your type and how you best utilize your energy. It also tells us what you're most designed to connect with in terms of communication. And it is literally the center that regulates, part of what regulates manifesting into action, because the energy connected to the throat will determine how you manifest things into action. When we look at the root center, it's as far away from the throat as you can get, even though it's a motor. And actually, when you look at the root center, for you to get energy from this center up to the throat, you are going to have to go at least through either the spleen or the sacral or the solar plexus. So this center is actually a regulator. It's the center for adrenaline energy. It gives us a pulse for action. When the root center pulses, we get an adrenaline surge, and we know in our bodies it's time for take action. It's time for right action. That pulse can happen through the spleen, and oftentimes that splenic pulse, not always, but oftentimes that splenic pulse is sort of an instinctive, sort of fear-based response. You know, we get that pulse when, I have a thing lately about talking about bears. I don't know why, but if you're in a forest and a bear is chasing you, that pulse for action is going to cause you to go into fight or flight and run. When we look at root up through the sacral, this is a pulse that tells us when it's time to do the right work and what's necessary for us to begin and sometimes complete the right work. The energies, the channels over here to the right from the root center to the emotional solar plexus regulate the emotional frequencies that we have and regulate what determines how we hold those emotional frequencies. So I'm going to actually just briefly go through all of these channels with you just to kind of give you an insight into what they're about. But the thing I really want you to file away here is that the channels that connect the root to these three centers, first of all, are most activated when the timing is right. And the thing that I think I talked about this a lot last week, and I'm going to say it again because it's so, so, so important. Not waiting for divine timing, getting impatient. I'll use the word impatient instead of angry, disappointed, frustrated, or bitter. When we are not patient and we decide to take matters into our own hands because the waiting thing isn't working the way we thought it would, we use an enormous amount of adrenaline energy to override divine timing, and we sometimes aren't available when the next right opportunity shows up because we've already taken ourselves off into a different direction because we've overridden divine timing, and on top of that, we burned ourselves out because this is adrenaline energy, and this is where you start to get adrenaline fatigue when you push too hard against correct timing. Now, the channels that go, and these are not as powerful because if you look at this, you'll see this goes through the spleen. That's not a motor. The spleen is not a motor. That when we look at these three channels, they are not actually the most powerful channels connecting the root to other centers. This first channel here, the 5818, is actually a drive. All of these channels are drives, and it is the drive to do something over and over and over again because it brings you joy. So this is that place where you are driven to do something over and over again, to practice and practice and practice until you achieve mastery, or to correct your mistakes until you get it right because you love to do it. This is the energy of a professional musician, for example. So a professional musician is going to practice and practice and practice and practice until I get it right. The 2838 is the drive to cling to the energy and the vision necessary to fight for what's right in the world. So this is kind of the Martin Luther King channel, okay? The 5432 is the drive to sustain your vision for bringing something forth onto material plane. So this is one of the energies actually for business, which is all about creating on the material plane. But this can be any spark or any divine inspiration that you have that you think will bring you something material. This is the drive to do the necessary work, to lay the foundation and to hold the vision until the timing is right, to pull the trigger on the action and go create whatever it is that you're creating. The drive here in the 5342 is the drive to start and finish something. Sometimes we only have half. We either have the energy for starting or for finishing, and not always all of it. So oftentimes that means we need people to bring us the other parts of the energy. The drive of the 60 and the 3, this middle channel here, is the drive to take action when it's time to move forward and evolve. So there's a lot of evolution and transformation in this channel. The 52-9 is the drive to see not only the big picture, but what you need to focus on, and ultimately find what you need to put your energy into focusing on and building. So it gives you the perspective and also the focus, and to know where you need to put your energy. These 3 channels connecting the root to the solar plexus are very, very important, because this solar plexus energy, as we talked about a little bit last week, is the most powerful energy in the chart. It's not the most powerful, but it's the most creative energy in the chart. And it is an energy center whose use is actually changing. And if you listen to my interview with Dr. Amit Goswami right before the Quantum Alignment show, he talked about how when you don't have a high frequency of emotional energy, you really can't create. That when you're only being rational and just using your mind, what we know from quantum physics is that that doesn't actually create. That's just thinking, okay? There's nothing creating up here except confusion sometimes and pressure. It's your solar plexus, the emotional energy, that creates. And when we have a high intensity of energy, it's very, very creative, which is why these channels are actually regulator channels for how we can stabilize oftentimes and consciously cultivate an emotional frequency of energy for the sake of creating in the direction in which we intend to create in our lives. This 1949 is a channel that regulates our intimacy and controls our energy, or helps us control our energy around intimacy. Right now we're in a Venus retrograde cycle. For many of you, the theme of your relationship and your relationship patterns are up. And our tendency sometimes when relationship energy is kind of not what we want it to be is to bail, right? So the bailing part of that is in the 49. The 19 is in the neediness. What we are being given in this channel is the opportunity to attune ourselves to intimacy and to cultivate the conscious energy that supports creating intimacy in all of our areas of our lives. In other words, the courage to be open with your heart, with the world, and to hold the vision that that openness of your heart will be honored and respected for the value that it holds. And that when we can hold the right frequency of emotional energy to support frequency, then that root gives us a pulse to know when it's time to take action on cultivating the right next step in your relationships to create intimacy, or to create a new relationship, or to deepen an existing relationship or community. And those relationships, by the way, aren't just with humans. This is also our relationship with the natural world and with your dogs and your cats and all mammals that you have in your life, your horses. I'm going to go to the bottom one next because I want to talk about the 3955, the middle one last. Yes, Cindy?
Sometimes you're starting to freeze. But just letting you know.
Okay. I will.
But we're doing good.
Okay, good. I'm going to try to turn
And I'm
everything
holding the
off.
questions until the end. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'll do that so I can get through this quickly and make sure we cover it all. Hold on, sending a text. Okay, the 4130, which is the outer channel, is the drive to hold to a vision of what you want to create. It's fantasy and desire, and it's got fire in it. So it's this energy to hold on to a vision, to sustain what you're envisioning as part of your creative process, and to maintain the emotional frequency that goes with the anticipation of the manifestation of that vision. Is the energy to hold that vision until the emotional energy is right and the timing is right to take the next right step to create that vision into manifested form. The 3955 is the energy to build faith that when you let go and you stay grounded in the expectation that you are fully supported and you hold that emotional energy. And I want you to just take a minute because this is such a powerful and important piece. Take a minute, if you will, and if you don't want to do it right now, please do this when we're done. And imagine for yourself, in fact, write this down. What would your life look like? What would you create if you knew that you were fully supported? If you didn't have to worry about any of the thousands and billions of pitfalls we think of in our brilliant minds, if you just simply went, I'm going to go create this, and you never had a thought about, oh my God, what's going to happen? Am I going to die? If you didn't have any of that stuff going on, you could just go, I'm going to create from the sake of pure creative essence. What would you create? Because that's the energy that's potentially, when you live out that level of trust and that level of faith, that's what's in that channel. And frankly, that's what human design ultimately teaches us to do. And when we get to the end of this presentation, I'll teach you how to get to that place of faith. Our next center, and we look at the next channels here, again, we're moving now up towards the throat center, which is the regulator of the energy, in addition to the root. The two channels connecting the emotional solar plexus to the throat, the 1222 and the 3536, are both channels that are regulated by the emotional solar plexus, meaning this: you don't act on either one of these two themes in these two channels until the emotional energy is correct. And if you're not waiting for the right energy, the potential for you to really create chaos or to feel really stuck in your life is here if you don't wait for the right emotional alignment. So the first channel, the outer channel, the 3635, is all about stretching the boundaries of what's possible for the next human journey, the next human adventure. So if you think of Evel Knievel jumping over or Evel Knievel's son, I found this out the other day. It's not Evel Knievel, his son. If you think of Evel Knievel's son jumping across the Grand Canyon on his motorcycle, that's a classic 3635 experience. It's not that you're all going to go do that, but you all know that, oh, humans can jump over the Grand Canyon with motorcycles. Or like a couple of years ago, there was a guy who jumped out of an airplane at 10,000 feet in elevation, and I think he had to put on a special spacesuit to jump out of the airplane at that height because there was no oxygen up there. So we all know, hey, humans can jump out of airplanes, sorry, not spaceships, but airplanes at 10,000 feet in elevation. That's awesome, but you don't have to do it. It's just part of the human story. If you wait for the right emotional energy, you'll have the next right new experience if it's yours to have. The one thing you have to be mindful of is that boredom, which is a big pitfall of this channel, When you get bored, if you get bored and you're not waiting for the right alignment and you're just leaping, you have a tendency here to really create some interesting adventures for yourself, not always so great if you're not waiting for the right emotional alignment. That 1222 is actually the energy for articulation. I have a client right now, and I can't wait to share her book with you guys, which I will in a couple weeks when it comes out, who's just written this book on the power of community and intentional community. And she has this 1222. And right now we are working on cultivating sound bites for interviews, because this 1222 sometimes makes it very difficult to speak if you're not in the right emotional frequency. And some of you who have this channel, and you can have either the 12 or the 22 or the whole channel, you might feel like sometimes you can't quite put the words that you feel in your heart, in your head, into form through your mouth. And you start to speak and nothing comes out, or it doesn't come out at all like what you thought, or you feel jumbled or garbled or hesitant. And so this energy for communicating, and the communication that happens in this channel is transformative communication. The words we speak through this channel are transformative. They change people. They mutate people. And when you are not in the right energy, the right frequency of energy, it's hard sometimes to get those words out. When the words work well, here we have in the same channel the energy for music and poetry and romance and powerful, powerful language that changes things. And that power comes from, that ability to change people comes from holding the right emotional frequency of energy. And as I talked about, we know from science that emotional energy is very creative. And that when you create in alignment with the right emotional energy, high frequencies of emotional energies, which you can manage and calibrate by thinking good and clear thoughts and taking yourself out into the world and giving yourself the gift of self-care and beautiful experiences. You might not think that going for a walk is an important step to activating your power, but it absolutely is. Because when you are taking care of yourself and nurturing yourself and creating an environment for yourself that is comprised of high quality archetypes, then you are crafting for yourself an energy and a capacity to hold a high frequency of emotional energy. And that emotional energy and that high frequency of energy allows you to cultivate a creative spark that allows you to really begin to leverage that energy in the direction that you intend. Now, I want to show you one other thing on this chart, which I did not put in the slides, but I think it's really important. When we look at the mystical circuit, which I talked about a couple of weeks ago, and if you're interested in learning more about that, if you go to Facebook to the videos tab, on that videos tab, it'll open up a whole bunch of videos, and there's a video I did there a couple of weeks ago on the mystical circuit. There is a channel that connects the solar plexus to the will center, and the will center through the 2551, which I'll talk about in a minute. This connection is the place where, through the vagal nerve in the human body, we actually use our emotional energy to calibrate through the vagal nerve our heart and our heart's electromagnetic frequency and the state of coherence of our heart. When you are consciously cultivating powerful, positive emotions, notice that I said the word powerful in there, those powerful, positive emotions are actually regulating what you attract into your life based on that magnetic resonance field. They are also keeping you healthier and upregulating your gene expression. They also set the tone for the direction of your life, and they influence the story that you hold about yourself, which in turn changes the nature of the direction that your life begins to take you. So do not think for a second that your feelings don't impact the entire nature of your being, and most importantly, really powerfully influence the health and wellness of your heart and the power of the electromagnetic frequency field of your heart center, and ultimately controls what you choose to allow into your life experience. So just it's so vital that you get that piece, that this really using this energy with consciousness and deliberation and working to sustain for yourself an attitude of faith and trust in the sufficiency of the universe is very, very important. We're moving now to the sacral center. The sacral is the most powerful motor in the body. It gets to the throat center primarily through these 6 channels. These 6 channels are called the penta. They actually are very, very important direction-giving energies. And these 3 channels here are called the Tantric Channels, which are the channels that give direction to life force, or rather life force gives direction to the soul, which I won't get into that today, but it's just kind of cool. These channels are very powerful and very direction giving. The thing that I want you to understand is that, again, we have this heart energy right here in the middle of this power surge here, right? This diamond, the G center, contains the heart's magnetic resonance field. It is responsible for what you attract into your life. If you've ever heard of the law of attraction, the law of attraction lives right here. And that law of attraction, that capacity that you have to attract what you want into your life, is regulated by this magnet, this magnetic monopole, this magnetic resonance field in your heart. It's regulated here in the G center, and it's regulated by your emotions. When you are holding a specific frequency of energy, emotional energy, this center gets regulated. This center then in turn influences what starts coming at you in your life. And if you are a generator type, it means it's influencing what comes in your outer reality that you get to respond to. So even though this energy center is powerful, and most importantly, it's the only energy center that's sustainable. This is the one center that just keeps going and going and going and going. When it hits that holy hum, that generator response, it's just going to keep on going on. But it doesn't get activated by thinking a thought and going out and forcing things to happen. It gets activated when you drop into that sacral energy and you wait and see what shows up, and then you respond to it. So there's nothing here about initiating. So far, none of the energies we've talked about have been initiating energies. There's nothing about power in this chart that says, oh, I go force and push. Okay? Everything, all of the energy in the chart comes from conscious regulation, deliberate management, and calibration, and waiting. Okay? If you can get those pieces and make that waiting process a state of joyful anticipation and curiosity, then what you create in your life will be really amazing, and the quality of power that you will amplify in your being will go through the roof. The next section, I just want to throw this out. This is the last little channel here. There is a way for the sacral to get directly to the throat without going through another center, and that is the 3420 channel, which is actually what we call the archetype of the manifesting generator. Some of my manifesting generator listeners out there will have this channel. When you have this channel, because it moves so quickly and it's not regulated necessarily by this G center in the same way that these channels are, the capacity for you to do what I call spray and pray creativity, meaning you really push and push and throw a bunch of stuff at the wall, and kind of sometimes can get lost with what you might be throwing at the wall rather than exploring what's coming back at you. It's really easy to lose that focus and that understanding that even though you can react very, very quickly with this energy, you still are here to respond. And a thing I just want to throw out here, because the people judge manifesting generators for this all the time, especially 3420 manifesting generators, because there's so much natural energy here, and I'm saying energy, not power, okay? Because there's so much natural energy here, it's very easy when you have this channel, or it's actually important when you have this channel to multitask, to have 2, 3, 4, 5 projects going simultaneously. People will always tell you, you need to just pick one thing when you have this channel. Do not pick one thing when you have this channel. You need to have a couple of projects on the back burner, on the front burner, on the side burner when you have this channel, because that's how you keep your energy occupied, so that you don't ricochet that energy around inside of your body and fry your thyroid. So it's really important when you have this energy to stay busy. It's also really important to not get attached to what you're creating, and to just trust that as long as you keep responding, waiting to see what shows up, you will be responding to several things simultaneously. Not all of them are going to bear fruit. Some of them will, some of them won't. The purpose of some of those projects is just to keep your energy occupied so that you stay healthy and dynamic. The next center, and the next set of channels we're going to look at, is the 4521. This is tribal energy, and it is materialistic. This is the place where we manage and allocate material goods or resources. So that's education, information, and money and things, okay? It is also the place where we have willpower, and it certainly has, if it's defined or you have this center defined, it is easy for you sometimes, or easier for you sometimes, to push through circumstances that are not correct and force your will over the circumstances when the timing isn't matching up with what you think it should be. So it is important when you look at the center to recognize that sometimes if you have definition here, you might be tempted to use your will to overpower divine timing. What happens with this energy center is it needs to be in a state of being supplied with resources. Okay, it has to have access to resources, or it needs to be motivated to gain resources to get movement or momentum. So there's a certain amount of material readiness here. So what happens sometimes is when you have this energy center, especially when you have the center defined, that you will get signs from your material outer reality, and those signs will indicate to you that it is now time to take action. You will have difficulty taking action with and gaining access to the power of this center if you are depleted, i.e. burned out, if you don't have money, if you haven't cultivated the money that you need, if you don't have the resources you need, and if you don't have the will to do whatever it takes to make it all happen. So this center is actually probably the most human center we have right here. This is the place where materialism lives in the chart. It is certainly a place where in its low expression we associate value with material goods, and that certainly when we say money is power, it's certainly the low expression of this particular channel and this flow of energy. The flip side of this, the high expression of the potential of this power, is that when you are creating in the world from a place of service to your right place in the cosmic plan, then you will take your cues from the material world to know when it is time to take the right action to share and transmit whatever that service is that you are here to give the world. And when you operate from that place of service, and I really want to condition this for you, when you're operating from that right place of service, and that when I say operating from that right place of service, I mean first and foremost recognizing that your personalized, individuated self is the place where you serve, and that you have to take care of yourself first to be of service. The age of martyrdom is over, and I oftentimes see people with this energy get very confused about giving up of themselves or giving all of themselves to their place of service to the point to which they deplete themselves and they have nothing to give because they're so depleted, or they compromise their own foundation to such a degree that they end up collapsing and being ineffective because they haven't taken care of themselves first. Self-care, and especially the kind of self-care that replenishes, resources you, restocks your energy reserves and keeps you vital and dynamic and connected to not only physical wellness and mental wellness and emotional wellness and spiritual wellness, but even material wellness. When you can make sure that you've got enough to take care of yourself first, then you are positioned to gain access to this power in the highest way possible, because you're not acting then from a place of needing to overcompensate for some place in your life where there's a lack of value. including financial value. Does that make sense? Hope that makes sense. Now, I do want to talk just briefly about this channel. This channel is called the Channel of the Priestess and the Shaman. It is the place where actually these two centers, the will center and the G center, that is the diamond, are actually the heart chakra. This is the heart of who we are. And contained within here is the code or the blueprint for certain aspects of your life path and your destiny. It is interesting to note that the ego, the will, and the soul here are connected, and the only way that the ego can really serve the full aspect of its power the best is by surrendering itself to its place of service, and that happens through the 2551, the channel of the priestess and the shaman. And what happens in this channel is that through shocking or sometimes unexpected events, like winning the Powerball this week, you die, your ego dies to your higher self and emerges in service to your higher self. So when you move into a place of knowing that who you are as an individuated aspect of the divine is here to serve the greater good, the divine plan, and when you use the experiences of your life as a way of deepening your understanding of your unique role in the cosmic plan, then you activate an incredible source of power. And I would honestly say this is probably the most powerful channel in the chart, and the only way to get to that place of ego plus soul equals power is to surrender and to make yourself a practice that allows you to stay deeply and intricately connected to spirit as your source of power. So spiritual practices, whatever they may be for you, Tai Chi, yoga, meditation, walking, prayer, thinking positive thoughts, but connecting to spirit on a consistent basis in the chart we see is the most important way to harness divine will and an enormous amount of power and set your direction in alignment with that power, because it's happening in the G where that magnetic force lives, and to trust that when you stay connected to source, your being and your heart resonance field will attract to you all the resources you need to fulfill your purpose. And there's nothing you have to do. And that's really the beautiful part about this channel. There's nothing you have to do except surrender. And so as counterintuitive as it is, and what we see when we sort of go through all these different placements of power in the chart, is we see that the best thing we can do to activate our power is just not push, to be who we are, to align with source, and then wait. And that sounds so contrary to how many of us were trained to be powerful in life. But that is the source of your power, and that power gets fully activated when we let go. The secret to tapping into it, I know you're going to hate me for saying this, but this is just true. Follow your strategy by type. For the manifestors, follow your inner divine spark and then inform. For the generators, respond. For the manifesting generators, respond. For projectors, wait for recognition and attention. And for reflectors, wait your 28-day lunar cycle. There's so much waiting in all of these strategies. But that waiting is not about failing. It's not about doing it wrong. It's about knowing that the process of alignment happens during waiting, and all the parameters that need to be in place for you to activate whatever's next for you in your life get kicked in, get organized, and ultimately get brought into your physical reality when you are patient. And patience is really truly the source of power in the chart. Your strategy is the interface between you and your divine power. And when you can trust the universe enough to let go and wait, then you get to see through experimentation how your strategy works and how you can use that strategy, whatever it is for you, as your interface between your divine path and your divine power and who you sense yourself to be. But here's the kicker, and this is something I really want to encourage you to do, because I haven't said this in a long time, and I think it's time for me to say it again. You're learning to trust your strategy as the interface between you and your divine power is a living experiment. And in fact, Ra used to teach this all the time. He would say, don't listen to me, go experiment with it. I really want to encourage you to give yourself permission to experiment with your strategy. Now, don't just sit back with the same old energy that you've been holding, frustration, whatever it might be, and then try to follow your strategy, because that frustration is going to calibrate your experience. Get connected to source while you're waiting. Cultivate a spiritual practice while you're waiting. Work on your own sense of self-worth while you're waiting, and your self-love, because those are powerfully creative energies as well. And while you're doing that, wait, and wait correctly according to your strategy. The more you start following your strategy, and the more you start having the experience of following your strategy over and over and over again, the more you're going to start to see that when you let go and you wait, what's correct and right for you, and sometimes it's very different than what your mind thinks, begins to show up. So just a quick review. I talked about this a little bit last week, but how do you surrender? Follow your strategy by type. That means you don't have to figure anything out. You just be. Take care of your sense of value. Practice trusting. Explore. Here's something I want you just to think about. I want you to explore your past relationship with your parents. This isn't about getting your parents involved in this process, but it is about remembering that your parents are oftentimes the first people who teach us about trust. And is there anything in that early dynamic between you and your parents that might be impacting the way you think or feel about trust? And is there anything in there that you need to heal to deepen your experience of trusting source as sort of your godparent, right? I want you to cultivate a set of meanings that support your power. That means start exploring, where do you have beliefs that might be limiting your ability to tap into power or to think of yourself as being powerful, because those meanings are going to influence what you create. I want you to give yourself permission to define power in the way that feels right for you, and then let your energy field, your aura, do the talking. You don't have to push anything out into the world. Okay? This is about you trusting and waiting. I want to talk about one last channel here, because this is, to me, one of the most profound places of power in the chart. This is the channel 731. It's called the channel of the alpha. This is the place where empowerment lives in the channels. It tells us that we are all designed to be powerful and to have a voice in the way in which we are led. No one is here to be a sheep, okay? By design, none of us are sheep. And we're coming up in America on election season, all right? The highest expression, and we see this in the chart, of government is democracy. Not even necessarily representative democracy, but true democracy is the highest potential for organizing humans collectively in the chart. And what we see in that is that, first of all, leadership energy is projected, meaning it has to be recognized or invited out of someone. So you don't seize power. You are recognized as being a leader, and that leadership energy is called out of you by others who want to be led by you. Okay, so it's not something you grab. It's something that is assigned to you. Power is democratic. People choose you as the leader. And sometimes in that leadership energy, we play the role as the leader, and sometimes we play the role as the person who supports the leader, chief of staff, okay? And that neither one of those two roles are less vital than the other. You cannot have a good leader without support of the leadership. And if you don't have the support aspect of leadership, you can't pick a leader. So we are all designed to engage in the energy of leadership in some way, shape, or form, whether we are actually the ones who are called out to lead or the ones who are leading with our energy behind in the support position. And that energy is about you being powerful. It comes out of the G, the center for beingness. So we be powerful. You don't seize power. And the true source of our collective power comes from who we be and the heart of who we are, not from any motor, not from any place of force. And this energy ultimately is profoundly influential based on the attunement of our heart center to the truth of who we are. I just throw this out there for you to contemplate, because I want you all to explore, where are you cultivating that energy in your life right now? Now, I did tell you last week, and I just wanted to tell you again, I am sponsoring, I'm actually leading a quantum leadership retreat in Flagstaff, Arizona, or you can attend live via live stream. This is not just a retreat. This is actually an initiation that's going to lead you into 6 months of coaching with me, group coaching with me online once we leave the retreat. But I still have openings for the live event. It's November 8th through 9th in Flagstaff, Arizona. If you want to come, let us know. I want to make sure that we've got space for you and that we've got hotels and everything available for you. We're starting to run out of room. You can also attend live via live stream, or if you can't be live or it's a weird time for you because you're in Australia or somewhere, it will also all be recorded and you can complete the program at your own pace. I just finished completing the workbook today. We've got like 80 pages of amazing assignments that we're going to go through and explore your life purpose and where might you be leaking energy and what do you need to do to tune your heart in the most powerful way possible to be in a position of energetic influence in the world. So as I said, it's in Flagstaff, Arizona. We're actually going to be meeting about right here underneath Humphreys Peak, which is a powerful, powerful, it's a powerful mountain, according to the Native Americans. And it is a mountain where you go to set intentions. And it is said that in the shadow of the light of the sunset of the mountain, your plans are cemented. So in the shadow of the sunset, or actually in the light of the sunset from behind Humphreys Peak, we'll be setting intentions to move into, through the 1111 portal on the following Sunday, the initiation of your leadership in the world. So I want you to play with the following questions, and I'm going to take some questions myself. What would your life look like if you fully expressed and aligned with your innate creative power? And what do you think needs to be healed, released, aligned, and brought to your awareness for you to unlock your divine power? So Cindy's going to post the link for the Quantum Leadership Retreat below. I'm going to get out of the slides and take some questions. So what do you got for me, Cindy?
Well, we've got lots of questions.
Oh, good.
Well, a page on Facebook, and I'm not sure if it's the same page that's here in Zoom, but she first said, where politeness goes overly far, I risk losing myself. So I think that was a quote at the beginning.
Don't be polite, just be honest. Okay? You can be honest without being impolite, by the way.
She also says, I'd like to learn about the developmental ages of empowerment.
So there are 2 developmental ages of empowerment. The first one happens from about 2 to 5, and that's that toddler phase when children are saying, no, no, right? And you, as a parent, have the role of teaching children how to explore appropriate ways to express their power. And the second developmental phase happens around, depending on each child, but somewhere between 12 and 18 when we go through adolescence. And at that point, we are separating and individuating from our parents and exploring our power out in the world. And sometimes we come home and power struggle with our parents because we feel powerless out here because we're young. And we have to kind of come back at home and practice being powerful in inappropriate and appropriate ways to discover how powerful we are as young adults.
Katie on Facebook said, can the throat center be linked to the physical throat?
Yes, it is. The third center, meaning the will center. I'm sorry, you'll have to, I don't know if you remember.
No, the throat center.
Can it be
linked to the physical throat?
It is linked to the physical throat. It's associated, the throat center in human design is associated with the physical throat as well as the thyroid and the parathyroid glands. Next question, Cindy.
Here.
I'm sorry, say it again, Cindy. I lost you there for a sec.
Katie then says, when a channel is half red and half black, what does that mean, please?
So when it's black, it's called conscious definition. When it's red, it's called unconscious definition. Your black definition is actually the programming of your soul purpose. So everything that's black in your chart is part of your soul purpose programming. Anything that's red in the chart is part of your life purpose programming. We are generally speaking more aware, especially in our youth, 40 and under, with our black parts in our chart. That's why we call it the conscious. as we mature, we become more aware of our red parts of our chart, the unconscious. What that really means for you, especially if it's a motor that's connecting to the throat or something that's connecting to the throat, is that you're probably not as aware of that energy because the connection is half unconscious. Unless you're older than 40, then you probably have figured out that aspect of yourself. The other thing we tend to say is that if it's black, you tend to have more conscious control over it. If it's red, it tends to be more innocent or natural in how it expresses through you.
That's a nice answer. I like that one. Paige in Zoom said, how do we connect with divine timing?
How do you connect with divine timing? So first of all, you have to wait. And that's the part we all hate. You have to wait for right timing. And right timing shows up when, and you'll know you're having right timing because your strategy will tell you the timing is right. And when the timing is right, you'll get the invitation, or you'll get something to respond to. Or if you're a manifestor, you'll have that inner awareness that, okay, now is the time. It's a little trickier for manifestors. And if you are a reflector, you'll be at the end of your 28-day cycle, or maybe you'll have to take another one to get super clear. And then you'll know it's time to take action. The real key for divine timing is this. If you're trying to do something and you just keep hitting a wall over and over again, or your emotional theme is getting triggered, so that's going to be anger for the manifestor, frustration for the generators, bitterness for the projectors, and disappointment for the reflectors, and you're stuck in that emotional response and it just feels like nothing's moving and you're not feeling good about it, then it probably means you're pushing against the right timing. That's especially true with business and relationships. So.
Okay, and then Leisha on Facebook says she has a 3420 and she completely understands the spray and pray craziness. But what would you have advice for someone who has a 3420 and has already fried their thyroid?
So, and this is true for any of you, if you are experiencing burnout of any kind, and that can be thyroid issues, that can be adrenal collapse, that can just be that generalized, I hate my life and I can't do it anymore. You might not be able to change certain aspects of your life in the interim. Maybe you have a job you hate, but you have to keep doing because you need the money. But burnout requires that you absolutely get religious about self-care. And what happens oftentimes is if you get to the place of being burned out, it feels like your whole life gets stagnant. Like suddenly you're not getting anything to respond to, or suddenly things aren't happening. And that's kind of your higher self interfacing with the quantum field saying, whoa, time out, she's tired, she needs a break. I think I did a video on burnout. I don't think I've done one recently. I usually try to do one every couple of months.
We had one, yeah, I'll post that on the Facebook picture in the...
But I will tell you the most important thing you can do if you're burned out, and this is true for anybody, is now step one, get religious about sleep. The only way you can repair the adrenals is by good sleep. And that might mean that you've got to back off and sleep really, really well for a couple of months or even longer than a couple of months. And it's tricky because when your adrenals go and your thyroid goes, it affects sleep. So you really have to sleep more than you think you need because you're already getting interrupted sleep because of insomnia and other sleep issues. So get religious about sleep. That's the first thing I would tell you to do. And then watch my other video, not while you're sleeping.
It's the top of the hour. I still have a couple more questions, but I'm not sure. Well, I actually have like 4 more questions. How many more do you want to take? Or
okay, let me see if I can go through them. I'll go until 2:05. How about it?
Okay. Harry on Facebook says, I have no activation on the spleen and an open G. How can I regulate and have fun with my, I'm sorry, I bet you it's not the spleen, I bet you it's solar plexus. He says, SP. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. And have fun with the SP and get the right frequency. Also with my 360 is difficult to manage in terms of waiting.
Yes, that is a difficult combination for waiting. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to put yourself on a very steady diet of positive thoughts. And that's going to be the most important way that you can regulate that emotional solar plexus. All right.
Cool. Okay.
Are you okay? Do you want me to go
I
read them?
think so. No, I think I got it. Katie had a response. I'm a projector, and she does find it very painful. Trina had a question. I'm a generator with a theme of frustration with strategy to respond. How can I have an example of what responding means, Karen?
Yes, you can. So if you, let's say, this example I like to use, let's say you decide that you want to go on vacation, and that's something that came from your head. And you then have an appointment that afternoon with your physician, and you go to the doctor's office, and the doctor says, you know what, you're just really burned out. You need a break. Okay, that's something coming to you from your outer reality, confirming that thought that you had in your head, like, oh, I need a break. So that sets you up then for the next thing. The next thing is, okay, if I'm going to take a break, if I'm going to take a vacation, where do I want to go? It's a big old wide world. Your head could come up with all kinds of creative ideas, right? But when you go home, you open up your mailbox, you get a postcard from a friend of yours. It's a scene of a beautiful beach on it. It's a white beach and a hammock and blue Caribbean waters. And you look at that postcard and your whole inner being goes, aha, that's where I want to go. Then again, you're getting signs and clues from your outer reality about what the next step is. Basically, for generator types, it's really about waiting to respond. One that's less obvious, they're not, the thing is generating, when you're a generator, it's not obvious. Anything in your life that's showing up from outside of your brain, okay? So anything that's showing up in your physical reality that you see, that you go, that's awesome. That's what I call the holy hum. You get that holy hum, that's what you need to do. So it can be driving by a billboard and going, oh yeah, that. It can be opening up the newspaper and looking through the classified section and seeing an ad and going, oh, that one that pops in your awareness. It can be, this is how I picked my last real estate agent. I was riding my bike down the street and I saw the sign. It was a for sale sign at a house, and I saw the name of the realtor, and my soccer went, that one. The guy sold my house in 3 days for the exact amount that I wanted. Okay? It's really, I think the tricky part about responding is, first of all, we think it's mysterious, and it's not. It's anything that's coming at you that's not your head. And secondly, I think we have a lot of resistance about following what feels good. We think somehow unconsciously, and I invite all of you to explore, where do you have programming that says it's going to be hard and that it's going to have some kind of suffering or martyrdom involved? Because there is a cultural tendency to not want to go towards things that feel good. As soon as we do, we start to feel guilty or bad, or we're like, okay, when's the next shoe going to drop? Like, we are somehow deeply conditioned to think that it's going to be suffering and hard, and it's not. All right.
Okay, there was, hopefully this would be a quick one, but Katie had a follow-up on, she says, thanks for the explanation of the red and black, and sorry for adding a question. So when there is white, what does that mean?
Wherever is white in the chart is what's called open. And anything that's open is energy that you experience in multiple ways from multiple sources, because your openness is where you take energy and information in from the people and the world around you. Wherever you have openness is where you take energy in and you amplify it. So it's very easy in your openness to get confused because you feel it oftentimes more intensely than your definition. So it's really important to understand your openness. And in fact, Cindy, if you want to post the questions for the open centers, if you want to put that there, Cindy's going to post a handout for how to explore what might be going on in your open centers so that you don't get your energies hijacked there. And if you get my book, Understanding Human Design, off of Amazon, I go through in great depth openness and the centers and all of the gates and channels. And you can explore in there if those gates channels are open for you, how the variety of different ways you might experience that energy and how you can really tune into, is this mine or not mine? So I think that'll cover everything for now.
Okay, we're past.
We're good. Yes.
Kind of went a little past the time.
Let me just say real quick, if you don't take action right away, if you are emotionally defined, you're not supposed to. If you're emotionally open, if that solar plexus, that center on the right, is open for you, it's okay. I just want to say this, the universe loves you. And you're going to get an infinite number of opportunities to do things. So even if you miss an opportunity, you might, maybe, it's not like it's gone. there's an infinite flow of goodness coming at you. And when you can just be present to that and trust it and hold that space, you won't miss it. Okay. All right. Quantum Leadership Retreat. I'm getting ready to start sending out big packages to people with information, not information, but with all the contents for the course in it. So if you're attending via live stream, register soon so I can get your package to you so you'll have it before class starts. If not, it'll all be online and you'll get your package later. But I want you to be there. I'm so excited about this program. I can't wait. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope this is giving you some insights into your power. Cindy, thank you as always for being my wing woman. And have a great weekend. I will talk to you next week.